Hello gamers, this is Sai and welcome back to Which Way Games. New enemies have come to Earth in search of the Dragon Balls, but Goku's got one thing to say.
Let's do this!
And with that being said, let's get on with the video. Welcome back to part 2 of Dragon Ball games. If you missed part 1 and want to know more about the history of Dragon Ball, then I suggest having a look at my last video. I'll leave a link in the description below. As I mentioned in my last video about there being no Dragon Ball Z games until 2002, this is where Dragon Ball entered the world of 3D. In fact, like I mentioned before in previous videos, it seems that any game that started out in 2D would have to make that transition to 3D. Sometimes this would kill an entire franchise if not done correctly, but other times this transaction would be a success, and the Dragon Ball franchise is no exception, especially with the Budokai and Tenkaichi fighting series for the 6th generation of console gaming, these being Sony's PlayStation 2 and Nintendo's GameCube. No, I haven't forgotten about the original Xbox. However, the Budokai and Tenkaichi games didn't appear on Microsoft's first console. Instead, the original Xbox had Dragon Ball Z Sagas, which was an action-adventure game developed by Avalanche Studios and published by Atari. Before release, gamers and fans of Dragon Ball were excited for this game, especially with the chance to play and explore the world of Goku and his friends. However, when Dragon Ball Z Sagas was released, it was immediately panned by critics as it was nowhere near as fun as it was meant to be. With a small roster of playable characters, the lack of signature moves, and the game concluding at the end of the Cell game saga was part of the reason Dragon Ball Z Sagas was deemed as a failure. Gamers were hoping to play the entire events of Dragon Ball Z and go on an adventure to search for the Dragon Balls. It felt like the Dragon Ball series had taken a step back when it came to gaming, but luckily for gamers and fans alike, there was a shining beacon of hope in the future. This would be the Dragon Ball Z Budokai and Budokai Tenkaichi series that I mentioned before. In 2002, Dragon Ball Z Budokai was released and was developed by the DIMPS Corporation, as well as being published by Bandai. The Budokai fighting series takes an all too familiar 2D fighting style that was popular with Street Fighter 2, as well as other fighting franchises, and flips it on its head with 3D fighting. The regular punch and kick attack scheme like most fighting games was present, but gamers could shoot ki blasts as well as power up their character of choice for new transformations such as Super Saiyan. These transformations did give some gamers the advantage when it came to fighting due to the increase of attack power, which was capped in later games. Gamers could move around the arena very much in keeping with similar fighting games such as Soul Calibur and Virtua Fighter, and with enough powered up ki energy, special moves could be used such as Goku's Kamehameha Wave or Vegeta's Gallic Gun. Being able to relive the events of the anime was fantastic thanks to Dragon Ball Z Budokai story mode, which started with the arrival of Raditz all the way up to the final battle with Gohan and Perfect Cell. Not only was there the story mode, but there was also a few what if episodes where gamers could play as some enemies and completely change the events that occurred in the anime. The all-important versus mode was present, as well as a tournament stage to test gamers and an item shop where various customizable abilities for the game's characters brought a certain RPG element to them. With the success of Dragon Ball Z Budokai, a sequel will be on its way. Budokai 2 kept the control scheme of the original, but with a few added tweaks such as the ability to dodge certain oncoming attacks, as well as cancel them out entirely with a well-placed punch. The story mode, as well as the other options from the original, had made a return, and the story mode covered the entire events up to the Kid Buu saga. The chapter interface of the original was gone, however, and in its place was an interactive board game style of movement between episodes and events. This board game style was known as Dragon World, and gamers could hunt for the 7 magical Dragon Balls while playing. And a welcome addition to Budokai 2 was that fusion was now part of the gaming series. This allowed gamers to fuse certain characters in keeping with the anime, but also allowed Tien and Yamcha to fuse for the very first time.
You're insane! I'm not posing like that!
Budokai 2 was well received and gamers already knew that a third installment to the series was on its way. And in 2004, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 was released, which was well received thanks to correcting some of the flaws of the first 2 games. The usual modes the first 2 games had were present, and the story mode now followed the entire events of the anime, as well as including more what-if scenarios. A great addition to Budokai 3 was that there were more character gamers could play as, including characters from Dragon Ball GT and the Dragon Ball Z movies. Gamers could finally relive the movies and also be able to transform into Super Saiyan 4 for both Goku and Vegeta. Heading back to the story mode, this would be the first time that gamers could fully explore a world map of Dragon Ball. This map hub was called Dragon Universe. Being able to fly around the Earth as well as Namek was what gamers had wished for since Dragon Ball Sagas. Gameplay remained the same, but the 3D arenas gamers could battle in had grown larger and there was more variety. Now, gamers thought that Budokai 3 was the final game within this excellent fighting series. However, rumours started to appear about a possible fourth instalment. This new game would be called Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi, but wasn't developed by Dimps like before. Development went to Spike, but was still published by Bandai, as so many of the Dragon Ball games are, and in 2005, gamers got this new Dragon Ball Z game. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi turned out to not be a continuation of the previous Budokai series, but was in fact its own game with a new game engine and a new behind the back view gamers would have while playing. The modes that had become staple to the Dragon Ball series luckily had not been removed, and even the story mode had been tweaked. And what gamers got was a mode called Z Battlegate, which was a memory of the Eternal Dragon Shenron, and gamers were guided to the gate by Mr. Popo, who guaranteed safe passage.
I'll tell you where they're not. Safe.
Unfortunately, the option to fly around the world was gone, and the only way gamers could attain the Dragon Balls was by finding them while fighting, but gamers could only keep the Dragon Balls if they won the fight. Budokai Tenkaichi was praised for its better animation and graphics compared to the 3 Budokai games that came before, and due to its high praise, a sequel was on the way, and in just over a year later in 2006, gamers were treated to Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2, which is one of my favourite games I play every year. With even more characters to play as and more places to battle, gamers and fans were kept happy thanks to the fan service of the developer. A welcome return was a chance to fly around the world once again, as well as flying over Namek in the story mode called Dragon Adventure, clearly taking inspiration from Budokai 3. Some gamers were put off by the complexity of the control scheme, but once mastered, Budokai Tenkaichi 2 became a joy to play. It even went on to win the Best Fighting Game of the Year award for the PlayStation 2 from X-Play. The customization mode had made a welcome return, and even allowed gamers to create an unstoppable fighting machine to use in the main story, as well as the martial art tournament mode, where the game's currency of Zenny would be used to unlock more abilities, as well as some hidden characters. Now obviously Bandai had already planned a third installment into the Tenkaichi series, so the follow would have to be something pretty special. When Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was released in late 2007, gamers were overjoyed to learn that this new game would have even more characters, even more modes, and a new feature called Disc Fusion System for the PlayStation 2 version. PlayStation 2 gamers would be able to insert either Tenkaichi 1 or 2 during gameplay, which would then unlock a new mode called Ultimate Battle. This was essentially a survival mode where enemies came after the gamer in an all-out brawl to see who really was the best. Another noticeable feature was the introduction of a night and day cycle, which gave a more accurate battle in keeping with the anime. If gamers chose any of the Saiyans and the moon was present, then the Saiyan of choice would transform into a giant ape. The control scheme had been tweaked and a better combo system was now introduced. Now gamers could play out all the events of the anime and actually go through all the struggles of the Z fighters when saving the Earth. As I mentioned earlier about even more characters, Tenkaichi 3 had over 98 characters, which when bundled with all the transformations, this number went up to 161, ranging from Dragon Ball all the way to Dragon Ball GT, as well as the movies and some what-if characters. As some gamers and fans know, Dragon Ball GT is no longer canon, especially with the anime and manga of Dragon Ball Super being released. Hopefully there could be a way of making GT part of the Dragon Ball mythos once again, and then fans could see who'd win in a fight against Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta or Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta. Judging by the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, I know where my money's going. Now, some gamers regard Tenkaichi 3 as one of the best in the series, while other gamers would argue that Budokai 3 was the best. Either way, I think all the games in both series are a joy to play, and reliving the exploits of Goku never gets old. More Dragon Ball games would eventually end up being released, such as Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Tenkaichi, as well as Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z for the Xbox 360. I will make a return to those in future videos, as well as the Dragon Ball Z games for the Xbox One. Now, throughout the journey of talking about Dragon Ball games, I did stumble upon the 7 legendary Dragon Balls. Well, I found them while flying around the Earth using the Dragon radar. But the question is, what will be the first wish? I think I'll leave that up to Dende while I think of another wish for me.
Carlantion, Champson, Recreato Ancianson, Onson, Della Esnai Porunga!
That is not an easy wish.
I have a face now. I suppose that's one way of using a wish. What about my other wish? That would be that gamers come back next time where the world of cinema comes to life, where our hero has to save the girl, beat the bad guy, and be in home time for tea. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next game.